Goosebumps is a film that isn't an adaptation of the TV series or even the books, but literally takes the books, takes R.L. Stine, and makes it into a story that I thought was going to be one of the best family films of the year. What the story revolves around is R.L. Stine and his daughter who are living at home all privately until a boy moves in next door who is Mr. Nosy Pants, gets all up in their business, and ends up opening R.L. Stine's original manuscripts of Goosebumps, which then releases all of the monsters that he's ever created. And I thought, dang, that's going to be a pretty interesting story. Now, a feature for Goosebumps has been in the works back since 1998 when Tim Burton wanted to make one. That didn't come into fruition until now, where we have the director of Gulliver's Travels and Monsters vs. Aliens, which you see bits and pieces from those movies in this film. But what ends up becoming of it is a movie that is a bit more of a kid's movie than it is of a family movie, to coin the captain's term. And that just means that they take a concept that is meant for families, but they just dumb it down way too much to the point that it's just for little kids to laugh at. However, let's still break it down to the good, the bad, and everything in between. And like I said, I thought there was a lot more potential for the story, but I'll still give it benefit for the things that it was able to do, because there are several moments, if you grew up reading Goosebumps, where that nostalgic part of your brain is just going to be just red alert, because there are moments where it's sort of like the scene in Cabin in the Woods, but for all of the Goosebumps monsters, and you're going to be like, dang, that's incredible, look at all this nostalgia feeling. I personally was more of a choose-your-own-adventure type of kid myself, so I still enjoyed it, but I wasn't all head over heels for it. What I did like was when they were able to show just some of the monsters in particular, especially Slappy the Don't Call Him a Dummy, because not only was he the most menacing in the books from what I remember, but he was also the most menacing in the movie, and he's also voiced by Jack Black, who has a little bit of a Mark Hamill tone to him, which I completely enjoyed. Jack Black as R.S. Stine, however, I'll just put it this way, his character of Nacho Libre has more common sense sometimes than his version of R.L. Stine. And hopefully this isn't like a biopic to R.L. Stine, because they don't make R.L. Stine look good at all. Jack Shephard's son as the main lead does do a good job in the movie, as well as the daughter who was also in The Giver, who looks like a mixture of Mila Kunis and Alexandra Daddario mixed in, so she'll probably be in a future episode of True Detective. But you then had that kid who was called Champ. I like to call him Chompers, because this kid was that sometimes Jar Jar Binks in the movie. He was the one who did jokes where you're like, it doesn't make any sense. You can tell that they're just doing it because it's the easiest way to get a laugh from families who are coming to watch the movie. But I will give him credit, because there were some points where the dude is dorky enough to have had some good jokes. I mean, there's a point where the first time we meet you at school, the kid pulls out a business card with his email and locker information for you to find him. And it's like, oh, he had some funny moments, but 80% of his jokes were just very idiotic. And that's where some of the bad stuff comes in, because like I said, it has elements in the story which are very entertaining, but they bring in these very dumb characters, but they don't know when to pick and choose, because they want the characters that are very dumb and over the top. And sure, you can do that because it's going to make families laugh, but you only have them there for that specific reason, because you also have the boy and the girl, who are able to think reasonably, in the same way where they do the same thing with the elements of the whole gimmick with the monsters coming out. Sometimes you're able to open a book and capture them. Sometimes you're not, and it just picks and chooses to the point where you're like, you have a really cool premise here. Why are you like purging it where you just don't do the best with it? Another example of them just picking and choosing is that they literally could not even decide whether R.L. Stine's house does have a front fence or doesn't have a front fence. They literally changed their minds every other scene. As for the ending of the film, it is such a visible cop-out for trying to have a sequel, but even more so, we've seen in movies where a lot of destruction happens, and usually you're like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do with the person responsible for this, and many times it seems like they forgive. They go above and beyond here with how they handle the person who is responsible for everything that happened. And even worse, that cliche that happens in movies where the guy ends up with the girl who he was with, it is the most pathetic version of that. Once you see the movie and you really think about what happened, it is so bad. Other than that, though, as a family film, like I said, it's right in between being just a regular kids film and a family film, and where it has some funny moments and where it just has a lot of other moments which are very childish, and you're like, okay, you're taking a premise that could be really good and you're dumbing it down a bit too much. But they're obviously setting up for a sequel. Maybe that'll be better. But I am curious if you were able to check this out, whether you are a big nostalgic fan of Goosebumps or whether you just went into it taking your family or whatever the reason may be. We can discuss this movie down below in the comment section. Anything having to do with Goosebumps or any other film. And until next time, I'll be seeing you guys later.